bring in Carson Palmer. Help me understand this. Most of these guys get in a spread offense when they're in junior high, high school, college, and not normally under center. How big a deal is this that a quarterback, they're not comfortable running a quarterback sneak?
Well, I just think all of this is getting misconstrued a bit. Dan, have you ever seen the movie Heat, the Al Pacino movie, The Heat?
Yeah.
I think Urban's got the heat on him right now, and everything he says is going to be calculated and maybe misconstrued a bit. I just think his point was, look, we haven't run it in a game yet. I wasn't comfortable with the call on 4th and 1. I'd be more comfortable if we'd run it a couple times. But I don't think in any way he was saying Trevor's not tough enough. He's scared of running it. I don't think that was his point. And I think that's what Trevor was saying is, look, I'm ready for it. We haven't practiced it and I haven't run it in the game a bunch. But at the end of the day, Urban's got the heat on him. And everything he says right now is going to be, overthought and talked about by everybody. I don't think there's anything really to this.
I understand it, but here's Tom Brady, who's still running a quarterback sneak at age 44. Why can't I have a 6'6", 23-year-old run a quarterback sneak? Like, is it just getting under center? Like, why haven't they practiced this, though? That quarterback sneak is really important to a lot of quarterbacks.
Unfortunately, you can't practice it, just like you can't practice with the quarterback being live in the pocket with the starting defense breathing down his neck, lighting him up in practice. You're just not going to expose your quarterback to injury practicing a quarterback sneak in the game. At the end of the day, they need to be in the first quarter on 3rd and a half a yard or 3rd and 1 and run it a couple times to where they're able and comfortable enough running it on 4th and 1 with the game on the line. But you cannot practice it. I've never practiced it in my career. I've never seen it practiced in my career. It's just something you got to call in a game, and that's your practice.
What is it like, though, when you go, and I'm just trying to envision this, when Brady goes to the line, and we know he's going to get the ball in the quarterback sneak, but as far as tapping, your center's rear end on the right or left, if you're going to go, or how that works with the unspoken communication.
Yeah, as you come up to the line of scrimmage, you're looking for a double team, meaning your center and guard on one defensive football player. So wherever that nose guard is, the guy that's closest, the defender closest to the center lines up. If he's on the left shoulder or the right shoulder, you just tap him on the butt and let that guard on that side also know that, hey, I want you two to double team that guy, and I'm going to just ride the wave. I'm going to get on the top of your back and push, and we're actually going to triple team that individual player. So it's like I said, it's just something that they actually need to practice it in a game. And that's the only opportunity they're going to have to practice it.
I was just surprised that Urban didn't shake it off better. Like
Urban's
Belichick,
got the heat on him, man.
I know, but Belichick would have, diffused that. He would have pushed that to the side and moved on because, in college, you wouldn't get to talk to the quarterback. In the pros, Trevor probably didn't know what Urban said. He's coming in next, and, of course, they're going to ask him about that. I don't know. It just felt like it was a rookie mistake for the head coach.
It's exactly what it was. I mean, Urban's got the heat on him. Everything he says is going to be analyzed and over scrutinized. And he hasn't built up the equity that Belichick has. He hasn't earned the right to just kind of brush off a simple question by somebody and move on to the next one. He's got the heat on him. Every question is going to be overanalyzed. And you're right. That was a rookie mistake, the way he handled that.
All in on the Chargers?
I'm all in on the Chargers because they can rush the passer and they got one of the best young QBs in the league. I mean, that combination, big, physical, hard to cover receivers. Keenan Allen is still one of the best kept secrets in the league. I still don't understand why he doesn't quite get the love that some of these other guys do in the league. He's been doing it for a long time at a very high level. But they can rush the passer with Bosa, and they can throw the ball on anybody. I mean, Justin Herbert, everybody knows it. He's a star. He's a star in the making. So I'm all in on the Chargers, absolutely.
Okay, but what do you see with Justin Herbert? Because Jimmy Johnson on Fox's pregame show said he would take Justin Herbert over Patrick Mahomes.
That may be a stretch. I mean, Justin Herbert hasn't done it as many times as Patrick has, but I'm not saying that I don't know that Justin Herbert has the ability to win a Super Bowl or the talent to win a Super Bowl. We're about to find out this season. But man, the ball comes out of his hands so effortlessly. There's so much zip and acceleration on the football coming off of his fingertips, and he can take off and run. I mean, you saw him use his legs. He is a complete threat. Run it, throw it. He's smart. He's actually does a really, really good job for a young quarterback too. He does not panic. There's a lot of times where he held on the ball for a little bit too late, and then you see that quarterback that's young that tries to throw it away at the end, and a guy tips it and it becomes a pick or it becomes a fumble. He's really, really calm in bad situations and knows when to just eat it and live for another play and take the sack and move on to 2nd and 16. So I just really like the temperament that he's playing with right now.
What would concern you about the Chiefs?
Just defense. I mean, they're obviously built with speed on the back end. If you look at the back end of that defense, there's not a defender over 210 pounds. They're built to stop the pass. You know, you get in situations against them late in the season, especially, and with the weather last night, the wind, the rain, you got to be able to run the ball, forcefully down people's throats. And that's the one thing that Kansas City can't really stop right now is you can attack them in the run game. They are built to stop the pass because they're really building around Patrick, obviously. And, they want to be in a situation where they're up 28-17 or 35-21, where they force the opposing offense into a throwing game. But last night you saw them get exposed. I mean, they hung 38 points on them last night. And Patrick isn't going to be able to keep up with every single opposing offense every week. There's going to be games like that. But I'm in saying all that, I don't think that I'm not saying that the Chiefs aren't going to make a run at it. I think they're going to be deep in the playoffs at the end of this season. But that's definitely a concern is the amount of points that have been hung on them early on this year.
I've had this philosophy with the Chiefs, but tell me how, and maybe it sounds simplistic and it's not, but I would have my defense, my backs play deep. Like I would never let Tyreek Hill beat me. I want everything in front of me. You want to get 10-yarders, 15-yarders, fine. We're going to take advantage of your defense. When you're on the field, they like to strike quick, and I want to know if they have the patience to be able to do something like that, and that is no home runs. You want to hit doubles, and make them value every possession they have that they have to score because your defense isn't that good. Is that too simplistic going against the Chiefs?
Well, I think the issue with playing them like that is Travis Kelce. If Travis Kelce's injured and he isn't available to work the underneath routes and around, between the hashes, 10 yards or shallower, you can sit back and play them, but Travis is going to eat you alive. If you're just going to sit back and try to stop the deep ball, the big issue is Travis. And then the X factor outside of all that is Andy Reid. He's always going to have something really with a motion, with a shift, some sort of quick screen. He's always going to do something to keep you on your toes as a defensive coordinator. So the combination of Travis Kelce working the underneath coverage in the middle of the field, and then you got Big Red calling plays from the sideline. I just don't think you can sit back and make them be patient because they can still get you with Kelce.
What do you think of Trayvon Diggs for Defensive Player of the Year?
I mean, if the season stopped right now, there's not a doubt about it. He'd win it. I mean, he just continuously finds ways to get the ball. And the other thing about him is there's a lot of DBs that you see and watch that they're going to drop a handful of picks. They may end up going to the Pro Bowl with 7, 8, 9 picks, but they could have had 13 if they would have caught them all. That's the thing about Trayvon. The ball doesn't hit the ground. If he's got an opportunity to catch it, he makes the play. He completes the interception. He is like a receiver out there at defensive back.
But how often would you avoid a defensive back in your career?
It depends on who it was. I mean, if it was somebody
like Revis.
Revis could shut down half the field. And he was kind of similar to Trayvon. When the ball was in the air, Revis was going to catch it. There was very few balls that just bounced off of his fingertips. He had receiver-like hands. But if you got a Revis, or I played a bunch against Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed, and if it was Troy, we ran the ball away from him. If he rotated down to the left side of the field, we ran the ball to the right, vice versa. If it was Ed and Ed was double teaming a player or taking away a half of the field, I would just work the other side of the field. So Trayvon's that type of player. I mean, if Trayvon's lined up on your number one, regardless of who it is, you should be thinking of working the other side of the field, no doubt.
Dak Prescott talked about he had to move past this game. He got injured, with his ankle, but and Drew Brees talked about this too, that you can't help but think about that injury. How long did it take you to move past when you got hurt against the Steelers?
It just takes getting past that next game, because unfortunately for Dak, and you heard him say it after the game, he said, I'm just glad this game is over with. I'm just glad I can get past it. And that's not a mental hurdle for him that he can't get over. It's just he's been asked about it week after week after week, and his teammates have been asked about it week after week. So it's just something that when it's constantly being asked of you, you may not be necessarily, have a hurdle in your mind that you can't get past it. But when somebody's constantly reminding you, the New York Giants last year, you're playing the New York Giants in 3 weeks and 2 weeks and 1 week, it just naturally comes up in your head. So I think Dak can put this behind him. They're sitting at, I believe, 4-1 right now. One of the best offenses in the league. He's proven that he can take a hit. He can take off and run. He can step into throws. He's gotten that injury behind him, and I just expect him to continue to flourish as the season progresses.
What's your philosophy on quarterbacks trying to make tackles on interceptions, given what happened to Baker Mayfield?
You got to try. There's no doubt about it. I mean, when you make a mistake and you put the ball in the wrong place, or you didn't throw it on time and everybody else did their job correctly, there's an awful feeling as a quarterback when you throw that thing and it's starting to head in a different direction. And then you got your defense on the sideline that maybe is playing a great game, and they don't want that stat going on their side of the stat line, because those interceptions that end up being touchdowns, those end up counting as points against your defense. So every quarterback knows that. Every quarterback thinks about that. You don't have to make the tackle. You just got to make sure he doesn't get in the end zone, but you have to give effort. You have to try, or else you're going to hear it from every teammate.
Yeah, but when I see Tom Brady go in a fetal position when he's going to be sacked, or Peyton Manning kind of tries a little bit, but he doesn't want to touch that person who just picked him off. Like, those are guys that survive 20 years. These guys who want to make like Baker Mayfield, you want to stick somebody. Now he's got, a damaged shoulder.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield's not Peyton Manning, and Baker Mayfield is not Tom Brady. Those guys have earned the right to make sure they stay healthy. I think Baker's 3, 4, 5 years and a number of statistics away from being able to be able to take kind of a hall pass on having to make a tackle.
How many tackles do you think you made in your career?
I had a couple good ones. I certainly missed more than I made, but I had a big chip on my shoulder. If I threw a pick and it was going the opposite direction, I wasn't worried about injury. I was worried about my teammates and letting them down. So I was giving everything I had. I was a terrible tackler. And now that I'm coaching football, and I actually coach a lot of the defensive stuff, so I'm trying to talk about tackling and technique and form. And I can talk a good game, but as far as actually being able to execute it fundamentally and technically, I can't tackle.
Paulie, how many tackles did Carson have in his NFL career?
Oh, I'll get the good stuff first. 294 touchdown passes, Dan.
Okay.
That's a lot of touchdown passes. I got one tackle.
See? I can tackle.
As a rookie.
It came as a rookie. Yeah,
you just got to prove yourself once, right?
You think you put the fear, of just that defense thinking, if I pick him off, and last thing I want is Carson Palmer to hit me?
I don't know. I threw a pick in Pittsburgh to Troy Polamalu. I think it was early on in my career, and he was my old roommate from college. And I don't know where he came from. I thought I had a nice, easy completion, and all of a sudden I see this giant paw go up and one hand this catch. And I got knocked down. I turned around and I was standing on my own goal line. And by the time I looked up, Troy was coming at me full speed. And all I could do was duck my head and put my arms up. And he ran me over. Actually, I still have a pain in my shoulder. He put his helmet right in my AC joint on my shoulder and ran me over for a pick six. And I think that was the one tackle.
Oh, wait, you get credit for that?
I got him on the ground.
In the end zone?
In the end zone, but he went to the ground.
Does he say anything to you after a play like that?
No, Troy never says anything to anybody. So if it was anybody else, they would probably be talking trash. But Troy I never heard Troy talk any trash in the field. If there's any football player that ever had the right to talk trash, it was probably Troy.
And you hear that voice And if I say that, like Mike Tyson, where you go, hey, that's the baddest man on the planet, or that's a Hall of Fame defensive, like I would never think Troy Polamalu was one of those. I'm all over the field, like a yoga instructor. Troy is like my sensei or something.
Yeah, just a sweetheart off the field, but once guys like him or Mike Tyson get in the ring, they become pit bulls, and you got to watch out.
But you get these guys. You can't be both, right? Like you can't be crazy off the field and on the field, can you?
Yeah, I believe you can. I've played with a number of those.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You got any names?
Ocho was crazy off the field.
Like how
crazy on the field?
How crazy was Chad Johnson off the field?
I mean, it depends on your definition of crazy, but I remember when Twitter first came out, Chad, and nobody really knew what Twitter was, but Chad was definitely on it. And Chad would go to the local mall in Cincinnati and send out a tweet saying, "Hey, I'm standing outside of Dick's Sporting Goods." And sure enough, 400 people show up and want to hang out. And then he'd take them all in and buy everybody a pair of shoes, or, do something. I guess that's not crazy. That's awesome. But he was just as crazy on the field as he was off. I mean, just as far as doing something you wouldn't expect. I wouldn't expect him to try to decleat Ray Lewis on the field, but he tried.
Hines Ward said that the Steelers were afraid of James Harrison.
I believe it. I remember playing again in a game against James Harrison, and somebody got in a little bit of an altercation kind of after a play. There was a little bit of a scruffle, and I'll never forget Deshae Townsend came in. He was in the secondary. He came in out of the secondary, and Deshae was giving the Bengals, our team, a friendly warning, like, you do not want any of that. Back up right now. And it was out of like fear that one of us was going to get broken or snapped in half.
And chances are it'd be you.
No doubt. I was in James crosshairs all the times.
Hey, it's great to talk to you again. Thanks as always. And we look forward to next week.
Thank you.
That's Carson Palmer. His weekly appearance in the NFL season brought to you by our partner, Level Select CBD.